Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Merps.
This is ADWCTA.
Oh, Merps is first this time. For the first time in forever. And I think basically for the
Yeah,
last time.
literally forever.
This is unprecedented. The
Hmm.
first time in forever. And yes, this is not a changing of the guard that we're seeing here, okay? I know we just celebrated Coop number 100 last week. It's not like the reign of ADWCTA is over. Long live
It's
Merps.
not no more responsibility. You fiddle around with Audacity and uploads and all that stuff.
I
I'm
know.
done.
I know. No. This is a 1 week thing. Short lived, but will remain in the hearts of our listeners. Um,
So if you don't know, I'm getting my computer upgraded right now, which means I don't have a computer and I'm on my tablet. I have one USB cord on this tablet, like USB slot. It is plugged into my mic. I hope the audio quality is good, but if it is not good, there is not much I can do about it. And Merps will be our audio technician this week. So hopefully this will turn
Only
out
good
good when
things
you're
can
listening to this.
come from that. Only good things.
Hmm. Okay, so what's going on with the Lightforge this week? What are we doing?
I don't know. You've done other work, so why don't you talk about it?
All right. So, the huge tier list update that came out 2 weeks ago was followed by another huge tier list update last week. Except it's really like 3/4 of a huge tier list update, so we didn't really say anything. But I couldn't it was just in the middle of the process. I could not release it, or else the new scores wouldn't make any sense. I didn't want to redo all the new scores under like the old system. It's a mess. Anyway, basically, right now, if you're looking at the Lightforge.com and it is before Thursday, which is the week 4 release, you will see that like the 50 and below for like Warrior, Shaman, and Warlock are just wrong. Like the class cards are just they're not aligned. And then there's a few other class cards that we're still adjusting. But generally speaking, the big change that we did is we gave Murloc Tinyfin 28 points.
It happened.
No, sorry. Angry Chicken. We gave Angry Chicken 28 points. We gave Murloc Tinyfin. How many points did we give Murloc Tinyfin? Like 22 points?
I don't know.
Something big. Something still big. Maybe we also gave it 26 points. Regardless, what matters is where they ended up in, right? It's not about where you start out. It's about where you end up with. That's just a fact of life, right? So where Murloc Tinyfin ended up at is a 48. And where Angry Chicken ended up at is a 38. So these cards went from like in the teens to a 38 and a 48. And if you're wondering, Murloc Raider is now a 48 also. And that also went up by 8 points. So while that's happening, the other big change that happened is in 3-drops. Like really crappy 3-drops, which is that 3 3s and 2 4s and 5 2s, like all of those moved up like 6 to 8 points. And we also pulled things like Thrallmar Farseer and things like that out of the dungeon. Where's Thrallmar Farseer? Now, Thrallmar Farseer is a 40 now, right? So just in case Angry Chicken was feeling good, it's still below Thrallmar Farseer. So the idea is the bottom of the tier list is now been kind of pulled up in general, but also it means that some of the cards like Wisp, like Murloc Tinyfin, are now actually draftable because the cards they're in competition with didn't all move up, right? Like Dragonling Mechanic is at 48. So now if you're debating between a Tinyfin and a Dragonling Mechanic, it's a toss-up, on pick one. Whereas before, we would have been like, no, Dragonling Mechanic, right? Like card advantage. It's Murloc Tinyfin's too small. But the tempo provided by Murloc Tinyfin is starting to, like, in this meta, we think it's outweighing a lot of the size things. You'll see things get really pretty intense when you get to, like, 6 mana cards and cards higher than that. What's a good example? What is a good example of when...
Just to let you guys know, we're not done with this stuff. So the card rankings and ratings are still in flux. But I think this is a good time.
And a tiny bit of flow. We're mostly done.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah,
we're mostly done. This is it's not fluxing too much anymore. Man, this tablet is really small, really slow. I can't, and it doesn't have a horizontal scroll. I can't really check the score.
Yeah, by the way, when by you doing this, so for those of you just listening in and not watching the YouTube, you can't tell, but you can tell when ADWCTA is like trying to use his tablet because his video feed slows down. It's pretty bad.
Okay. Okay, so Fossilized Devil Sword is a 44, right? War Golem is a 46. Those have now dropped below Murloc Raider. They have dropped below Murloc Tiny Fin on the 2-pick scale. And that's a very good example, like a very clear example, I think, of these, like, you know, large cards that normally you think, all right, well, at least I'm going to get some card advantage value later on when it doesn't really matter. They're played turn 7 and 8. It's not like they're 10 drops, even if I don't play them till turn 10. But how we're looking at these cards is, well, these days, if you play a 7-7 or an 8-8 without taunt or anything and you don't have the board, you're dead. Because your opponent will just hit you to the face, and then you will be able to remove one of their things, and then they will hit you to the face again, and you're just not going to live. So I think these cards have, relatively speaking, lost some value. They haven't been dropped by too much, but it's more that the other cards have all been raised, right? Like, we know 2 drops have been raised by a lot, 1 drops have been raised by a ton, and 3 drops have been raised by a little bit. And so, like, relative to those, some of the 4 drops in the mid-range have also been raised some. So just relative to all of that, the big cards are now not faring as well, and that's on purpose.
Yeah. Big drops, we've talked about this before. They always suffer the problem of you can't play early, and when you play it late, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, right? There's a lot of stuff that could go wrong. They can always get sapped, or they can always get outdoored, or they can get one of the many things, and you're really going all in on a big minion whenever you play something that big.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah, and it's not like unlike you know, some cards with card draw, which have also been lower, but I think not as, they didn't suffer as much. It's because you could technically play them early on. If you have an 8-mana card and your deck is built so that you don't, you know, you get to 8 mana with like 2 or 3 cards, that's a dead card for so many turns, right? Like, totally dead card. It's not even an option, and that's not good for a good player. Okay, so that's just kind of the big overview picture. Like, all the cards, you know, 50 and below moved, and they will keep on moving as we fiddle around with things a little bit more for next week. I think if you check the lightforge.com for the tier list on Thursday, everything will be where we would consider like a vaguely final state. And we'll keep adjusting it to the meta as it goes on. But I expect that by that point, there wouldn't be that many more adjustments. Like, it's not like we're going to go in and change like 30 cards again, right? The way we've been like changing 300 cards at a time. All right, well, so that's the tier list update. Karazhan Wing 4 is also coming out. You want to talk a little about that?
Sure. I mean, not really. I want to talk about the next expansion, but since we have no information about that, I guess we're going to talk about the end to
new thing. We're going to talk about the next expansion every Lightforge from here on out, and how much we're looking forward to it. I agree, though. Like, Karazhan is, maybe it'll be better on Thursday, right? Like, when we actually start seeing Karazhan cards double.
Yeah, maybe.
More than double. 1, 2, 3. It's going to go from 3 to 8. So, like, almost triple. Right? The amount of Karazhan cards in the meta will almost triple.
Yeah, this is what I'm sort of afraid of, right? Like, I'm looking at the meta right now, and I'm saying, well, wait. We don't have the offering bonus right now. Everything will change, but I don't think things will change by that much with the offering bonus.
Well, you know, 3 times 0 is 0, but 3 times 0.5 is 1.5. Huh?
Look at that,
well,
math
1.5
skill.
is like a real number.
Amazing,
That's
man.
Like more than the amount of dragons and murlocs you're expected to have in your deck.
That's pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that stuff will get interesting really soon. But let's just take a look at the new cards that are coming out, because it doesn't seem like things will be that interesting.
Yeah, this is not a Wing 4 is not terribly exciting for the arena.
No.
Just if you're like waiting to be excited, don't.
You're gonna have to wait a while. What do you want to start talking about?
Okay. Let me see. I'm going to slow down my computer again for this. Okay. I hope the audio recording's fine. Like, I hope it's not skipping audio.
That would be bad.
That would be really bad. Okay. Let's start with, like, the best card ever. You want to start with the best card ever? Yeah, I think we should start with the best card ever.
These are all pretty bad.
Oh, what? There's like the most amazing card because it's like one of the cards that we love the most, but like even better.
What, Bookworm? You want to talk about Bookworm? I want to talk about Bookworm.
I don't want to talk about Bookworm. Which card do we like that's a 6 mana 3/6?
Well, no, it's like a weird Kodo-ish thing that is a lot worse than a Kodo.
Wait, you like Kodos? I hate Kodos.
Oh, I love Kodos.
Oh god, I didn't even know you like Kodos. I hate Kodos. They're like so RNG based on what your opponent plays.
All right, you know what? Let's get one out of the way really easy because it's a neutral common card, okay? Nether Spite. Is it Nether Spite? I thought it was a Nether Spire for a second, but it's actually Nether Spite Historian. 2 mana, 1/3 creature with a battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, discover a dragon. Now, discovering dragons are great because dragons are pretty powerful. 1/3, if you're drawing a card, isn't bad. Look at Museum Curator, and this is even better. However, you have to be holding a dragon, so this card sucks. And we're done.
Yeah, so this card is pretty much a 2 mana 1/3, which is not totally worthless in the arena anymore, according to us. That's how much we're into tempo now. What's some 1 mana 1/3s that have seen a rise recently? Okay, the Rubar Weblord's a 48. That's a 1 mana. That's a 2 mana 1/4.
If it was a 1 mana 1/4, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
Yes. It would be. Unfortunately, it's not that good yet. Mana Addict is a 40. That's a respectable 40, I think.
Not bad.
And what's the one? Master Swordsmith is also a 48. That's a 1/3.
Yeah, understandable.
So 1/3s are they're rising up in the world mostly because they're playable cards with 2 mana and they kind of do things. Especially the 1/3s that actually do things, right? Like Master Swordsmith. No matter when you play it, like it's not a 2-drop at all, but no matter when you play it after turn 2, you're going to get 1 more attack somewhere else, right? Which makes it like almost as good as a 2-drop after turn 2.
Yeah.
So unless you're actually playing the card as a 2-drop, it's pretty much a 2-drop, and it's actually better than like a 2/3, right? Because you get that you could potentially get 1 more attack like every turn that it lives. So it's certainly a good not 2-drop card. Unfortunately for the Nether Spite Historian, it's nothing like that. You're just not going to have a dragon. It's just a 1/3, and it's going to still be bad.
Yep. All right, so I talked about my card. Talk about your card now.
Let's talk about Bookworm now that we're on this neutral.
All right, so Bookworm is a neutral. It's a neutral card, so every class can get this amazing card. It is a rare 6 mana 3/6 dragon with a battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, destroy an enemy minion with 3 or less attack. So you have a body with a Shadow Word Pain, right? With the condition you have to have a dragon in your hand, and you can basically cast a Shadow Word Pain. Now, we've all seen other minions that have the text that say, if you're holding a dragon, do something, right?
They're bad.
Yeah, they are bad. Not only just, because you have to be holding a dragon, which is pretty rare, but those minions are always understated as well. You have the 5 mana 5/4 minion, which has Battle Cry, deal 3 damage if you're holding a dragon, right? Now, this is a pretty powerful effect from Bookworm, the ability to destroy an enemy minion with 3 or less attack, but it's more situational, right? And when you already have succeeded in having a dragon in your hand, do you want to go through another sort of conditional situation in order to get value? Like, you usually just want the 3 damage, right? Between the destroy an enemy minion with 3
Corruptor.
Yeah, exactly. Like, between the destroy an enemy minion with 3 or less attack or just deal 3 damage, I'd rather just have the 3 damage.
Oh yeah, you definitely rather just have the 3 damage when it's this situational, right? Like, otherwise, what are you gonna do? Like, hold 2 dragons in your hand and wait for stuff on turn 6? Like, how many cards do you have at that point? Like, how many cards are you locking up? Remember how we keep saying, like, you just lock cards up in your hand. That's why, like, War Golems are not that good. That's why Fossilized Devil Swords are not that good. Well, now you're locking not only this card, but your other poor dragon, just being held hostage in your hand, waiting for, like, a good turn to use them. It's great and all if you're trying to win on card advantage, and this does provide somewhat of a swing, but you're probably not going to do that for too many turns before you're just dead.
Yep.
So, like... It's just, it's not like it's actually going to be dead in your hand, right? Your opponent will play stuff 3 or less attack. It's just going to be crap that you don't care about.
Right.
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 You would think, like, the power of a Shadow Word Pain is not in this Bookworm.
No,
even when there's a dragon.
Yeah, and the Bookworm's body is enough to take care of those, like, Shadow Word Pain targets, right? So the Blackwing Corruptor at least helps you trade up. Yep. Like with something, or just kill something like an Ethereal Conjurer, right? Yep. Which is really helpful for you. This, you could have the Dream, you could kill off a Myexna, or you could kill off...
kill an Ethereal Conjurer too.
Well, the body will. Maybe. The Battlecry will. So you can kill off, like, that... I don't know, the Bloodsail Corsair, and then be like, all right, Bookworm, take the hit.
Yep. See, so that's the difference, right? If you have a Blackwing Corruptor, you would have killed 2 things, right? And still have a body on the board. With a Bookworm, you kill 2 things, but you don't have a body left on the board anymore.
Yeah. So...
yeah, it's just bad.
Yeah, just a bad card.
But you don't, like, we rated these cards before the new system came in. You don't want to know how low Bookworm was, like, on the old system. It's going to be a little higher now because all the cards are a little higher because we made room at the bottom.
Yep.
God. Like, so one of the interesting things when we, like, went into this whole, like, more aggressive, more free-flowing meta thought exercise, and we raised all the floors of stuff. It's like, Healing Touch is 36 right now. Holy Light is 38. Like, these are, like, real cards that are really bad, but you still might pick sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, kind of just to show you how bad Bookworm is going to be. I think you're going to find Bookworm around there.
Pretty bad. All right. So what's next?
What's next? Let's talk about what I was trying to talk about first, which is the best card, and I'm very upset that you didn't know what the absolute best card was in this entire, well, maybe not this entire expansion, but I'm going to put it out there right now. This card is almost as good as a Firelands Portal. Almost. And people aren't they're not, I don't think a lot of people are looking at this card and thinking that it's anywhere near that good. But this is Spirit Claws. You guys see how highly we rate Light's Justice in this meta? Well, this is Light's Justice without 1 charge, but the 4th charge is the least useful charge, right? So it's Light's Justice without that last charge, but with +2 attack if you have spell damage. Spell damage being one of your totems, right?
Yep. 25% chance. How many times are we going to see the turn 1 Spirit Claws, turn 2 Pray to RNGesus for a spell damage totem?
And even if you don't get it, this will still trade with any 2-drop, right? Just keep hitting it.
Yeah, go ahead and take that. If it's a 2/3, how many times are you taking damage?
Well, you're probably not going to hit it with a 2/3, but if it's a 2/3, you can put out your own 2/3, right? And then it does its work, and you can put out the spell damage later. Sure. Now, let's not forget, there are plenty of cards that actually have spell damage. They're not great for the most part, Azure Drake aside, but they exist. You may end up with them.
Yeah. So Spirit Claws, really good card. It pings and non-ping classes are really good. The ability for this thing to just become like significantly more than what you're supposed to get for 1 mana is great, because
more than what you're supposed to get for 3 mana. It's like what you would get for 4 mana.
And a lot of times, something like this, something like this would require you to do something out of your way, right? Not something that you would normally want to do. A lot of times, Shamans just want to totem anyways. Get some on the board. Totems are good for just all of their buffs. So yeah,
So you know, like the problem with Light's Justice is you get it later on in the game, and we're like, well, you just start hitting face, you get some face damage in, and maybe you clean up some 1/1s against paladins or whatever, right? Like, but you're not hitting like Yetis in the late game with your health pool, right? Like most likely, or you'll hit one Yeti and the other 3 charges will go somewhere else. It's like less effective than it is on turn 1. Spirit Claws gets rid of that problem because what happens in the late game, you're rolling a lot of totems. So Spirit Claws is, I wouldn't say guaranteed, but it's very likely that your first charge of it at least will be 3 damage, and once you do that, your opponent, like, that totem really becomes a taunt totem, right? So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on with this card. It doesn't look very intimidating. It looks like a weird combo card that is not good in the arena, but without the combo, it's pretty good. And with the combo, it's absolutely insane.
Well, it's a combo that it doesn't actually require any other card.
Right. Well, it requires RNG to be on your side.
Sure.
Or for you to have 4 totems on the board.
Right. It just requires a little bit of extra resources that you already have, which is good. Cards that actually require other cards, i.e. Bookworm, are not so good. But yeah, Spirit Claws is going to be a good card. Definitely draft it.
Yeah, like a really good card. Like a premium card. I'm talking Firelands Portal here.
Pretty good. All right. So we've talked about Spirit Claws. Let's talk about the other sort of class cards as well. Let's talk about the Mage common card, Medivh's Valet. 2 mana, 2/3 minion with a battle cry. If you control a secret, deal 3 damage.
All right, so this is one more overpowered card going in the Mage, and I'm not talking overpowered like Firelands Portal or things that look like they're making a big splash. I'm talking overpowered like this is a meta starving of 2-drops. You now have a 2-drop that has an offering bonus attached to it, so it's like Mage has 2 2-drops.
And Mages want 2/3s, like 2/3s.
Mages want 2/3s on top of that. Yeah, you're right. Like especially in the early going. And you think about it some more. Don't mages already have 2 2-drops, right? Like it has Sorcerer's Apprentice, which is great, and it has Snow Chugger, which is also great. So Mage has already a lot of very solid 2-drops in this meta that's missing 2-drops, and it just got essentially 2 more.
Right, and it's crazy because. Are you happy enough with a River Croc on turn 2? Yeah, you're happy just dropping anything on turn 2 to keep up. And yeah, all of the 2s that you've listed, like Sorcerer's Apprentice, Snow Chugger, these all have additional value rather than just being a small stat stick, right?
Yep.
You can get either discounts or the freeze effect is ridiculous for just 2 mana. And over here, the Battle Cry is a huge bonus, right? You probably won't be drafting a lot of secrets as a mage because mage secrets are really bad. But if you...
And keep in mind, for mages, they also have 1 more 2-drop than other people with Mad Scientist, too.
Yeah. And oh, geez, Mad Scientist, and then you have a couple Medivh's Valet, and yeah. Here's the thing. Why couldn't you just make the Battle Cry deal 2 damage? Like,
I don't know, man.
Is that significantly underpowered?
Secret synergies are all like super big, man.
No, but like wow, 3. Jeez, it's so ridiculous. If it just dealt 2 damage, would people be like, "Oh, whoa, this is a terrible, terrible card that just cannot be played"? I don't know, man. I obviously just cannot do card design. But yeah. So in the end. Are you going to pull off the Battle Cry a lot in the arena? Probably not. And one of the things that I'm sure the designers did think about was it's not as if this is a pounding card in which you could turn 1 secret into turn 2 this, right? It is a little bit, quote, awkward because secrets usually cost 3 mana unless you cheat 1 out with like a Mad Scientist. They cost quite a bit, and then you have to play Medivh's Valet. So you're playing it on turn 4 maybe, but probably much later than that. So the 3 damage is lessened to an extent.
Yep. But yeah, so you look at classes that deal two that have 2-drops, right? What do you have right now? Druids obviously have a ton of 2-drops, so that's one of the reasons why they're doing so well. Mages have a lot of 2-drops with this Medivh's Valet. Hunters did not used to have a lot of 2-drops, but they do have this new one with the offering bonus. So hunters are kind of up there. Rogues don't need 2-drops. So these are the classes that are kind of really hitting their stride in this meta. And on the other side, you have like paladins, which is like have one good 2-drop and that's it. You have priests, same deal, one good 2-drop and that's it.
Yeah,
like those are classes that are going to suffer. Shamans, I think, only have 1-2. Well, shamans are weird. Depends on how you think about overload. They could have a lot of 2-drops or just like 1-2-drop.
basically.
There's a lot of classes that are really in danger of this 2-drop stuff, and then you have classes like what's going to be the mage and what's currently the hunter, and the druid and the rogue, who don't really care that much, and they're going to get a huge advantage in this meta. It's just like, this is Blizzard's bad card, by the way. This is the bad arena card for the mage, and yeah, it's worse than the premium arena cards, but one, it's pretty good, and two, in this meta, it's like really good.
Yeah, I don't know if they thought about all of these things. Like
No, they
the
definitely didn't think about where the meta's going or things like that. They just looked at it and they're like, wow, it's basically a croc. That's not good. Except they've now created a meta in which crocs are really, really good and people desperately need to draft crocs.
Right, and yeah, it's all right. Let's move on. Mal Kazar's Imp. We're gonna keep on continuing to look at the common class cards. Mal Kazar's Imp is a 1-mana warlock card. It is a 1/3 demon, and whenever you discard a card, draw a card. So you've sort of talked about this a little bit. Like, these small tempo cards have all seen sort of a rise, and 1-mana 1/3s are pretty damn good just because they help you stay on the board. They dominate 2/1s, right? And if someone else puts out like a 1/2 or another 1/3, well, at least you get to stay on the board. And staying on the board as a warlock is really important.
Yeah, and on the other hand, having a 1-drop later on in the game is not that bad for the warlock because they just draw another card.
Yep, exactly.
Right? It just reads like lose 2 health.
Right.
And you're like, oh, I don't want to lose 2 health, but it's not the end of the world. Whereas if you're some other class, it's like, that's all you get.
Yeah.
Keep going with this top deck war.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose it now.
This card actually, it actually curves into something that makes sense, right? Darkshire Librarian, where you can actually play this on turn 1. You could play Darkshire Librarian.
I was gonna go with Succubus.
Oh, you could do that too. But yeah, they both work. You have 2 cards on the next turn that work perfectly with this. So extra consideration there. But really just a 1-mana 1/3 for warlocks, that would be great by itself.
Yeah.
An ability that really has the same value in the early game or the late game. That's fantastic. So this is just going to be a good card for the warlock.
Yeah, so you guys may be wondering where this card's going to be a 60. That's how good this card is.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, 1-mana 1/3s for warlocks are above 50. So it's not like this ability is amazing or anything like that. It's how good 1-drops are for warlocks, and in general, 1-drops that are 1/3s are good for people too. Like, we're just basically telling you, like, once you get your 2-drops and you're like good, like actual solid, like 3 and 4 drops and 5-drops, we're talking like 5/5s, like 4/5s, like 5/4s, 3/4s, that kind of stuff, right? The next step that you need to do is to push your tempo, which includes 1-drops.
I've always believed
we're fully
that,
buying into this 1-drop meta now.
Yeah, and I've played this this way with Warlock for a while, where I think if you don't have 1-drops as a Warlock, you are severely behind. Like, your deck is really, really weak. It doesn't matter if you have good other quality cards. If you're facing another class that has even, lesser quality than you, but if you're a Warlock, but you can't efficiently use your mana every single turn you're going to lose out.
Yep.
Because your class cards are significantly weaker than other classes. And you need to just pump out those 1-drops to, smooth out your curve on turn 4, turn 5.
And utilize that hero power.
Yeah, exactly.
Utilize that hero power. Okay. Let's go on to other cards for class cards. Common Warrior, Ironforge Portal, 5 mana, gain 4 armor. Summon a random 4-cost minion. So, I mean, can we just all agree that this is pretty much Priestess of Elune? Like, yeah, it's 1 mana less, but you're getting also a smaller minion.
And it's RNG.
It's RNG, so it's kind of just about as good as Priestess of Elune is, maybe like a tiny bit better. There are no armor synergies in the arena. Like, no one's excited about this card. People are really, or you really should not be excited about this card because you're getting more of it with the offering bonus. I don't know what else to say about it. Don't draft it. I guess if you have like a whole ton of armor, maybe draft it. A whole ton of weapons, maybe draft it. Because in that stage, you kind of just need like more health, right? Like,
see, it kind of okay. Now that Fool's Bane is in the arena, you do need all the armor and life gain that you can get. But man, this is so.
All the armor and life gain are such crappy cards.
Right, they are. Because armor is so OP in Constructed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Armor is way too good in Constructed. So
all the cards in the arena that give you armor have to be like below average.
Right. And this is a below average card. And you can see if it was, for example, like gain even like 6 or I was like, if it was,
I think 8 would.
8 is overpowered, definitely. Like in terms of constructed, it's like
I don't even think about constructed. I just mean in arena, I could say gain 8 armor, and it would
no.
Like
if it was gain 8
card.
Right. So here's where if they just printed this card in constructed, but for arena it was gain 8 armor, I'd be like, okay, fine, right? It would not be overpowered. I definitely agree. They just can't print the 8 armor version for constructed.
They definitely can't.
No. So.
All right. Well, yeah, that's Ironforge Portal for you. Let's look at the last neutral common card that's going to enter the arena. And this was actually going to be used, and you'll see it, and it's interesting. It's Violet Illusionist. 3 mana, 4/3. All 3 mana 4/3s, by the way, have moved up 4 points in the latest update as we rebalance. More because there aren't actually enough good 3-drops for you to curve out anymore. So... And the game didn't really add anymore. So these 4/3s are rising a bit. And in the same way, in recent metas, like 5/4s are being seen a lot more often. So a little Illusionist gain a little bit of value there. Anyway, the text of Violet Illusionist is, during your turn, your hero is immune. That means that if you are a rogue, this is a insane card. If you're a warrior, this is potentially an insane card. If you're some of the other weapon classes, it's pretty good. If you're a warlock, this is an insane card because you don't lose health and you get a free card for 2 mana. And if you're the other people, still a decent card, right? Like, still 4/3 for 3 mana. I wouldn't take it over a 2-drop, but it's like right after that.
Yeah, that's basically the nuts and bolts of it. I do like how they put out this card with Fool's Bane, right? So it can benefit every single class, but we really know who it's benefiting, because with Fool's Bane, you could take up to, I don't know, like 40 damage a turn, right?
I remember that time we met up with Fool's Bane and we just lost despite winning. Like, the warrior just went down to like 5 health and we couldn't finish the warrior, and he just won. Even though he was, he's like 10 tempo behind on the board going into like turn 7 or something like that.
Fool's Bane is just ridiculous. And now you can Fool's Bane for a turn, and the next turn, you can play Violent Illusionist. Violent Illusionist can be a card in which, it could have no additional attacks, or the additional attack could mean something like gain 20 health, right? Which is just crazy. So this is a card that, if you're a mage, okay, you just drafted you just drafted like a Kirin Tor without any secrets, right? It's basically like the same thing. If you're a warlock, it could be pretty good. If you're a rogue, it could be really good. If you're a warrior, it could be really, really good because of Fool's Bane. So it'll have very different scores depending on your class and your deck.
Yep, that's fair. All right.
Okay, let's go on.
Two more cards. I'm just going to go over this one really quickly. It's Ethereal Peddler. It's a rogue card. 5 mana. It's rare. 5 mana, 5/6. So it's a pit fighter. Battle Cry. Reduce the cost of cards in your hand from other classes by 2 mana. So it's a pit fighter. It'll do the reduction thing every now and then, but it's not really going to trigger much.
Because Swashbuckler is a thing now.
Yeah. But then you have to keep that card. It has to be in your hand. You have to like it's not going to trigger that much. Like it's going to get 2 points, like on top of a pit fighter.
Yeah.
Like that's the chance that you have of actually having this trigger. So that's Ethereal Peddler, and then finally the last card, which is a good card, is Moonglade Portal. It is a Druid card, 6 mana, restore 6 health. And then summon a random 6-cost minion.
6-cost minions are not that great.
They're really not. 6 is like you start seeing weird stuff at 6 and 5, right? Like there are a lot of the Bookworm is 6. Just to give you an example.
Fantastic.
and that's being added to the meta.
That's exactly what they want.
Well, what else is 6 mana? Avian Watcher is 5 mana, so we're okay there. Menadroid Warden is 6 mana.
Look, right? If you're getting a 5/5
like
out of it, I think you're okay. You just don't want the super busts, right? So
so it's not a good mana to be having, but restore 6 health. You can restore minion health, so. You can hold it for a while and then do it and have like a swing turn, or you can heal up, which is also pretty good.
Yeah. So restoring 6 health, that's not bad. With a classic Druid, either healing yourself or you can heal something else, right? Something on the board. It's a decent effect. Like the problem with these portals is just if you're a good player, you just don't want the RNG, right? And also, 6. We don't see a portal that summons a random 8-cost minion, which is the sweet spot. Like everyone wants a random 8-cost minion for all of the good stuff. So, yeah,
makes sense. By the way, just to give you an idea of how bad Bookworm is, Gazlowe, which is a 6 mana 3/6 that says whenever you cast a 1 mana spell, add a random mech to your hand. You will have more 1 mana spells than you will have dragons, by the way, I think. That's a 14. And what I mean by that is we have moved everything above 30. Like pretty much everything. Anything below 30 right now is like total trash tier.
Yeah.
Like Shatter is below 30. Like Lorewalker Cho Ancient Watcher is below 30. Even Nat Pagal is 30. Like... That's the new scale, right? Like Ice Block is below 30.
Yep.
Eerie Statue, Evolve Kobold, Junkbot, or Summoning Stone. Summoning Stone still below 30. I'm actually raising Summoning Stone soon.
You better.
I messed up that math.
If you don't, Twitch chat is gonna come and get you, man.
Hey, I got Twitch chat with the Murloc Tinyfin. All right, I can't satisfy them on every level. There's got to be losers. It's a zero-sum game on a tier list.
There you go.
If everyone wins, then everyone loses. Just
right.
like in the arena.
So those are the cards.
Okay. So those are the cards. Yeah, so how good is Moonglade Portal? It's very good. You take it over your Yetis. You take it over your... It's a premium card, right? But, it's not, like, game-breakingly good. We're not at like Flame Strike level. We're not at Fireland Portal level even.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, the 6 health matters, right? 6-cost minion, even though it's random, it's still gonna be a good card, and you're still gonna take it.
Yep.
That's
good
basically
body.
it.
All right. So that's it for the preview part of this. There's also two legendaries coming in, including one that's killing me to value, like Medivh the Guardian. Ugh. It's like me crunching numbers for like 10 minutes.
Medivh the Guardian is tough, but we'll talk about these two legendaries. If you don't know, Medivh the Guardian is a 8 mana legendary card, 7/7 minion, battle cry, equip Atiash. Great Staff of the Guardian. And the weapon is a 3-cost 1/3 weapon. In which
it's 3 costs, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Equipped it. It could matter in some fringe circumstances.
In weird
right?
ways, but like but you don't have to pay the 3 mana.
It's a 1/3 weapon in which whenever you cast a spell, you summon a minion of the same cost, and it takes up 1 durability of the weapon. Fun times can be had with this,
like a free summoning stone.
Yeah, it's you get to equip a summoning stone, which is kind of cool. But
and a Light's Justice all in one. Could not be better.
Could not be better. But yeah, it is definitely a somewhat slow card, right? And you could make up for it on the next turn after that, but it's tough. And the other legendary is Prince Mal Kazar, 5 mana, 5/6 demon. Another neutral demon, but anyways, Prince Mal Kazar says when the game starts.
Again, this one doesn't matter if you silence him.
No, because when the game starts, add 5 extra legendary minions to your deck. So,
I wish you could silence him and those minions just like disappear.
If you're debating between Deathwing, Dr. Boom, and Prince Mal Kazar, why not have Deathwing, Dr. Boom, Sylvanas, Cairn, and a Nat Pagal in your deck, right? You could have all of those. And a Prince Mal Kazar, so bam.
Man.
Yeah.
I think we're going to rate Prince Mal Kazar higher than it will technically be because I want people to take it. Because it'll make games much more fun. So the problem with the 5 extra legendaries is that they're random. And even a random legendary is not as good as a card you select.
Right. Because you're not...
You're like just weakening your deck.
Yeah. You don't want... and especially because when it's hard to get early game, by putting extra legendary minions in your deck, most of the time they're going to be like 6, 7, 8 drops.
Right, exactly. You better have your curve solid.
Right. I mean, this would be great if you're going on turn 24 and you're like, oh, I have 7 2 drops, I have 6 3 drops, I need more late game. And you see a Prince Mal Kazar, you're like, okay, late game in 1 card, right? Yep. I just have my late game. But
that's the problem. When the game starts, it would be a better card if it's Battle Cry.
Yeah.
Like it actually would be a better card if it was a Battle Cry, but whatever. Okay, so that's it for the cards. What do you think is going to happen? So all the cards are going to enter the arena, and like we said before, right? Like the amount of Karazhan cards that you'll see is going to be increased after Wing 4 by a drastic amount because Wing 4 is when the offering bonus kicks in. And I fully expect the offering bonus this time to be like, because before it was 50%, right? It was 50% for League of Explorers, it's 50% for Old Gods. I think it's going to be 100% this time. I think if you don't do 100%, you're just not going to see these cards ever. So I would not be surprised if it was a 100% increase in offering rate.
Yeah. I don't know, and we'll see. But
because even if it's a 100% increase in offering rate, it's going to be less than 3 times the amount of Karazhan cards in the meta than that there exists right now. And you barely see Karazhan cards in the meta right now, right? Like, how many Karazhan cards does each deck have on average? Less than 1.
I'm like 2.
Less than 1, not 2. Like 2 if you're like Mage, right? But less than 1 generally.
Well, because the cards just aren't good.
Right. Yeah. That's the problem. It's not that it is that there's not a lot of them, but they're also not good for the most part. And especially the neutrals aren't really that good. Which is the biggest problem. So you're left with this thing where like, half the classes have cards good enough to be premium and then you'll take them. But then like half the classes like don't really. And then, some of the ones with premium cards are like Hunter and you just don't see them all that often. It's just it needs an offering bonus. It needs an offering bonus to be big, and I don't know. Depending on what the offering bonus is, the meta could feel a bit more Karazhan-y. But again, I'm not really sure that's a good thing. Because what would, like, imagine if the offering bonus was like 5 times. How would the meta change?
It just being less fun. That's it. No, I mean, honestly.
Because the more you see Karazhan cards, the less fun the game is.
Yeah, and well, the problem...
Why would it be less fun?
Well, no. The problem with increasing the offering bonus to like an nth degree, right? Mm-hmm. That's where the weaknesses of an expansion will really come out. And when you have a small expansion like this, right, it won't be like, it's impossible to have it be smooth, right? Like, you're gonna have things that jut out. You're gonna have a lot of peaks and valleys, especially for class cards.
Right.
So.
Right.
Like, warriors will always have Fool's Bane. Mages will always have Fireland's Portal. And then you're putting these classes in really small boxes at that point. So you're like, okay, well, do I want a weapon AoE clear character? Well, then I'm playing the war. Like, you know exactly what you're getting as soon as you pick them, right? It's like, okay, do I want like a late game grinder with Fireland's Portal? Like, you're picking the card at that point. You're not picking the class, right?
Right.
So it becomes really boring in that you know exactly what you're gonna get as soon as you pick the class, and you can only play it in that one way. So
that's fair. Yeah. All right. Well, so I don't know. Maybe that's probably why Ben Brode was talking about that they needed a more long-term solution than this like offering bonus and this rarity thing. I'm excited to see what they do in the arena.
Me too.
But they definitely need to do something. I think this expansion really, for the first time, because even Old Gods, right? Like, there was its own distinct flavor, and it was kind of like a slow, methodical kind of pace, but it was a very different pace. And Arena had really changed significantly with each large expansion. And it still may with the next large expansion, but this expansion really showed that the expansion, well, at least a venture size expansion, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter at all. Like, AoE kind of, like, you got a little bit of the flavor, but it was already very faint.
Right.
And Karazhan, just, it's the missing expansion in the arena. It's the expansion where the cards it introduces don't really matter, and you don't see them all that often.
Okay, so I have to point this out. Once again, if you're just listening and you're not watching the YouTube, you can tune out for the next 10 seconds. But ADWCTA, what you've been doing for the past, I don't know for how long, is you're like sulking in your chair. Your eyes are just above the ADWCTA text on there, so it looks like you're being all sneaky and just looking
I'm just leaning back above. On my chair. Damn it! All right, I'll sit up and lean forward.
It was okay for a little while, and then it got really creepy.
I have a recliner. I'm just reclining back on it. And this is not my normal camera, because remember, I can only
right. So you're not used to it. But before, you were being all sneaky and yeah. You were
all right.
Okay. See, now we're good. Now you look all professional and everything.
Now I'm like less comfortable, and that's the problem with trying to look professional. You're always less comfortable. I think it's almost like a societal, like, I don't know, just a sacrifice.
Well, yeah, I thought that was always the point of professionalism.
Is to like just make a pointless sacrifice to show people that you're serious about this.
Yeah, exactly. It's
like, yes, I know I'm wearing a tie and choking myself, but I'm doing it because I care about my job.
Yeah, it's like it's like when you join a cult, right? And they force you to like brand or tattoo yourself painfully, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not that I know anything about this, but I know that some cults do this, right? And then, you tattoo yourself or you brand yourself. And it's just to show that you can do this. Now let's talk about Druids.
Oh, yeah, Druids. So we're going to play an arena coup after this, as usual. But today, Merps is going to do it because I can't stream from my computer. And I don't trust this computer to like stay on for the whole time. It does this weird thing where like overheats, it just shuts down. Anyway, we are playing Druid, and Druid is what I think, without a doubt, the biggest riser in the Karazhan meta, or in the lack of OG meta, because it was the biggest fall in the OG meta. So once you take away the OG card offering bonus, it makes sense that it's going to be the biggest rise. And then you add the biggest weakness in Karazhan meta, which is 2-drops and lack thereof, and you have the Druid, who have the most 2-drops, always has had the most 2-drops. And so you have a very good combination there. And then you get some other good cards, right? You get that 1-mana card,
Enchanted
the
Raven. Yep.
Yeah, which is really good.
Really good.
We just got another decent card. It's not like the best card ever, but it's good enough to see play. Right, Menagerie Warden, Beast Synergy kind of card. And then next week we are going to get this Moonglade Portal, which is actually a premium card. So Druid is definitely on its way up, and I think it's going to. I'm almost ready to say it's as good as a Paladin now.
Okay, I mean, Paladin wasn't that great in the first place. Like, if we're talking about tier list, it's sort of Mage.
Well, it was always right after Mage and Rogue.
Right,
in whatever tier that tier is.
Right. Mage and Rogue are at the top, and then it's a pretty big gap until you get to whatever class you think is third, right?
Right, yeah.
So, yeah. The problem with Druid was Druid used to always be at the top of tier 2, and they fell pretty hard to a lower tier.
I don't know if they were always at the top of tier 2. I like to think of them as in the middle always. And they rise a little and they fall a little.
Sure. But if you look at them,
OG, they had fallen to farther than they had ever fallen before.
Oh yeah, because they were never in tier 1. Like they were
never in tier 1 ever. They were number 5, right? And when they're doing good, they're number 4. And some people will make an argument that they're number 3.
Right.
And when they're doing poorly, they're number 6. And some people will make an argument that they're number 7, right? It's always like that.
Yeah. But they weren't number 7 for the longest time. They were always, hovering at around the 4 spot. So for them to fall as much as they have, it's something that we really haven't seen before.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, some people hate Druid. Some people just don't do well with Druid, and it always really surprises me. These are people that do well with Mage, do well with Rogue, do well with Paladin or whatever, and there's just some kind of mind block on Druid. Even though Druid plays very similarly to Mage and to Paladin, it's such a normal class. It's weird to me whenever someone singles out Druid as a class they don't perform well in. Except in the OG meta, because they were just bad.
Right. Well, the thing about Druid is you really have to have your fundamentals down to play Druid. With Druid, it's such a middle of the road sort of class in terms of you don't have a lot of cheat mechanisms in terms of hard removals, right? So people will be like, oh, Innervate, that's a cheat mechanism. Yeah, sure. I mean, Innervate number 1 is not. Yeah, it's not as powerful in the arena as it is in Constructed. And number 2, when you're talking about plays or cards that sort of erase mistakes, those are AoEs, right? Those are hard removals. Yep. Those are initiative, damage sort of things. Mm-hmm. So if a mage makes a mistake, the mage can make quite a few mistakes, but if he has 2 flame strikes in his hand, that will cover up those mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. If a druid makes a mistake, those will probably stick around because
and just so you know,
losing
an RNG battle is a mistake.
Sure.
In this
yeah. It basically is the terms that we use. They're not always how you want to think about them, but yeah. If you rolled poorly on that bomber,
bad move, man.
I know.
Move.
So that quote mistake. I know you just didn't believe well enough, but no. Honestly, that would be erased by a flame strike, right?
Yep.
Or that could be erased by 20 flame callers, followed by blizzards, followed by whatever. Druid has not many ways, and swipe gets rarer and rarer each expansion. So,
and the thing with Druid is it's kind of like Warrior too, in that you gotta really know, not as much as the Warrior, but you do have to know your position relative to your opponent, because you can go fast, you can go slow, you have your ping hero power, which is incredibly useful, but it comes at a freaking high cost when you start using it in the mid game. So you have to know when it's worth it, You have to know when to prevent it, when to like not care about it because you'll use your hero power to clean up. Like it's a lot of like resource management and seeing where the game is so you can like either push or pull. But still, those are all, like you said, right? They're fundamentals. That's like how this game is fundamentally played. I think the people who have trouble with Druid are probably the people who like archetypes. Like, right. I play Rogue, and I am aggro control. I play Mage, and I am control, right? Like, I play Paladin, and I try to snowball. And I draft like that, and I do whatever, right? I'm not drafting middle of the road or, like, whatever. I'll only adjust if I have to.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can't do that with a Druid, because there's nowhere to go. Like, Druid is best when it is in the middle of the road, right?
Very true. Yep.
That's why it has all these flexible cards with the choose ones. Druid is best when you kind of want to choose things on a 50-50 basis.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to be playing Druid. We're going to be seeing how it goes. Yeah, let's hope we get a lot of Ravens and Mark of Yashirajas.
And Spirit Claws. Such a good card. I'm going to play so much Shaman after this. Oh, Spirit Claws. Like, people kept saying Fireland Portal. Spirit Guards, man.
Spirit Guards?
Spirit Claws. Sorry, Spirit Claws.
Spirit Claws. Okay, so not only are we talking about Shamans and not Druids, you're just mispronouncing. All right. Anyways.
But, like, look at this. Look at this, man. All right. Spirit Claws is, like, almost as good as a Firelands Portal, right? And then, like, Maelstrom Portal is almost as good as a Firelands Portal. That's so good. I remember when I first looked at the cards that the Shamans got, and I was like very not impressed by it. And I was like, all right, Shaman's not going to do too well. And we're coming off of Fireguard Destroyer and the Stormcrack, just like very good cards for the Shaman. But I'm on the other side of this right now. I've done a 180 on my initial feelings on the Shaman. I think these are like super overpowered cards because the meta had shifted.
Yeah, indeed. All right, good talk about the Druid. Until next week, where ADWCTA takes back control. This has been fun. Anyways, guys, thank you. This is Merps.
This is ADWCTA.
See you guys.